So, we have some news on MindMed, ticker symbol MNMD on the NASDAQ and MMED on the Canadian NEO Exchange. Specifically, we have news that they've been added to two major indexes, the Russell 3000 and the Morgan Stanley Capital International Canada Index. So in this segment, we're going to go ahead and explain what this means and how big of a deal this really is. Should we be popping champagne bottles? So we're going to start with the Russell 3000 index, and we're going to get exactly to what this means in just a second, but first, a huge shout out to the Reddit users Hot Matza and Curved Corners for shining a light on this. Honestly, you guys are better than any journalists out there. It's been a couple days since this was announced, and still there's not a single news article on this. So again, Hot Matza and Curved Corners, I salute you. I would have never found this story if it wasn't for you guys, so thank you again. So we got news a couple months ago that MindMed was being added to the FTSE Russell Global Microcap Index and the FTSE Total Cap Index. And as we discussed at the time, this was a great step for MindMed. But in terms of a reflection on MindMed's progress, it didn't really mean much. They were included in the Microcap Index because the company was considered a microcap stock. And the purpose of the index is to track the performance of all microcap stocks. It wasn't the Russell saying that the company was a buy, just that it was a microcap stock and should be included in their index of all the other microcap stocks. Similarly, it was added to the total cap index because that tracks all companies, including the microcap stocks. Say microcap stock one more time, I dare you. So, as I said at the time, it wasn't that big of a deal that they got added into these different indexes, and it would be a much bigger deal if they got added into something like, I don't know, the Russell 3000. And I guess fate loves irony because I am now announcing that MindMed has been added to the Russell 3000. And before we all get our champagne bottles ready, I'm sad to say that it's still not the biggest deal in the world. So first of all, what is the Russell 3000 index? Well, quite simply, it's an index set up by the FTSE Russell Group with the purpose of tracking the 3,000 largest public companies in the United States. The larger a company's market cap is, the larger weighting it will receive. And the general idea is to track the performance of the US public equity markets, as this index tracks about 98% of all US incorporated entities, or equities, So, like with their inclusion into the microcap index, all that the FTSE Russell is saying here is that MindMed is among the 3,000 largest companies in the United States by market cap. They're not saying that the company is a buy or that they are bullish on the stock. Just that, with its current market cap, it ranks among the 3,000 most highly valued stocks in the United States. And once a year at the end of June, the Russell 3000 will reshuffle its current makeup depending on the current market caps of the different companies in the United States. And as we can see in this document published by the FTSE Russells, in its most recent update on March 4th, MindMed was included. So what does this mean for the company? Well, first and foremost, they get some bragging rights and a little bit of legitimacy for being included in the index. Being among the 3,000 most valuable companies in the United States is no laughing matter, and it is a major accomplishment. So first of all, major props to the MindMed team for accomplishing this. However, I kind of view this as like a trophy in a video game. Yeah, it's cool to win, but it doesn't do too much for you. Yes, there will be a little bit of upward pressure on the stock price as whatever stocks the Russell Index buys are essentially taken off the market, not to mention the fact that other funds track the Russell 3000, so they would also be buying shares of the company. But this will not be in a magnitude large enough to seriously bump up the stock price in the long term. We have seen the stock rise in recent days, it's true, but how much of that movement is actually due to this FTSE Russell 3000 inclusion is unclear, and even if it were completely due to this, it may just be a short-term jolt as investors try to get in front of the Russell buying these shares. Again, as I say literally every episode, the long-term success of MindMed will rely on whether the clinical trials are successful and then whether they can profitably commercialize these new medicines. It doesn't matter what indexes they get added to or when they get added to them. If you're invested in MindMed or any other psychedelic medicines company really, you should be focused solely on the long term, solely on their medicines. So this is nice, but it will have zero effect on whether the company is successful in the long term. But again, it does need to be said one more time, major props to J.R. Ron and the rest of the MindMed team for this accomplishment. Enjoy your trophy. Now, the indexing party doesn't actually stop here. It doesn't stop with the FTSE Russell, however, because a few days earlier, MindMed was also added to another prestigious indexer's portfolio. Specifically, they were added to the MSCI Canada Index. The MSCI, or Morgan Stanley Capital International, along with the FTSE, the S&P, and Solar Active, is one of the largest and most prestigious indexing and benchmarking firms that exist. Now, MSCI has thousands of different indexes, and MindMed was only added to one, and a relatively small one at that, which is the MSCI Canada Index. So it's not like it was added to their largest and most prestigious indexes or anything. But first of all, before we're getting ahead of ourselves, what even is the MSCI Canada Index? Well, it's a benchmark designed to track the performance of the large and mid-cap segments of the Canadian market. It currently has 91 holdings, which represent about 85% of the free float adjusted market capitalization in Canada. Like with the Russell 3000, all that's being said here is that MindMed is considered a large or mid-cap company based in Canada. And since that is exactly what the MSCI Canada Index tracks, it was included. No more, no less. Morgan Stanley Capital International is not saying that you should go out and buy MindMed, just that they view it as a mid to large size public company in Canada. And in order to have an index that tracks said companies, MindMed should be included. As for what this means for MindMed, well, basically it means the same thing as them being included to the Russell 3000. Some shares will be bought and held, which will have a marginal upward pressure on the stock, but the effect size shouldn't be too large. This definitely offers the company more legitimacy, but again, I view it almost like a video game trophy. Taking these two inclusions together, we can definitely see that MindMed is beginning to be viewed as a serious player by the financial heavy hitters. And even though it shouldn't affect the long-term prospects of MindMed succeeding or not, it's nice to see them getting some recognition barely a year after they initially went public. So hopefully these inclusions and the legitimacy that they bestow will keep the stock price elevated in the medium term, which will help MindMed get more liquidity for less dilution when they eventually need to raise more capital, which I'm sure they're going to have to do. Now, I'm sure that going forward we will see more and more stories like these, and we'll see MindMed be added to ever more indexes. But I'm going to turn it around to you guys now. What do you think? Is MindMed's inclusion in the Russell 3000 and the MSCI Canada Index a huge deal, or is it a big fat nothing burger? Let me know down in the comments.